It's ever evolving. That's the short answer. I think it's so. What are we? 40. What are we? 43 years into this, something like that. It's. I think ever evolving is it's different now than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It's different things that you have to caretake, that you have to protect. I think the main things now is that the gang mentality and the all for one, one for all musketeer type of approach that has to be recognized as an overall umbrella-like attitude, but it doesn't really work practically anymore when you get to your early 60s. So we give each other a lot of space, and it's like, okay, you want to do this, then I shouldn't tell you what you can and can't. It gets into the whole thing about, like, you don't want to tell other people what they can and can't do. And so in terms of the practical stuff about how, going on tour, well, I want to be in this country for a few more days because I'm comfortable in that country, and the other guy wants to be in that country. Well, there are ways to solve. These are just practical things. So it's like, well, the band has to travel together, and you have to eat together, and you have to do this. All that stuff kind of goes away. So we give each other a lot of freedom and a lot of reins to sort of exist in the way that's comfortable for everybody. That it takes a lot of sort of energy to facilitate that, but ultimately it's better for everybody in the long run. And then there's some people that will sit and say, well, it's also more expensive. But I think that if you have a functioning group of people, that trumps anything else. And if you have a happy group of people, and if you have a group of people that want to work together and that enjoy what they're doing, that trumps anything else, including expenses and resources and time and so on. And so it's a lot of, it's I need to take this week because it's my son's graduation. I need to do this because I'm okay. So you can't get into the no, you can't do that type of thing. So that's one way. If you notice, there are a lot of groups made of young people, and there are fewer groups made of older people. There's a reason. So there are thousands and thousands and thousands of groups made of kids in their teens or 20s or 30s, and way fewer groups of people in their 60s and 70s. Just because it's harder to coexist in a collective when you get older and more set in your own way. So we give each other a lot of space, and everybody brings boundaries and parameters to the group, and we find a way to coexist with them. That's probably the main thing. And then the other thing is that at the end of the day, when you really fucking strip all of it away, we would rather be in Metallica than not be in Metallica. It's really that simple. We're sort of, I think there's a point where maybe for certain people, the need to break free of a collective, maybe it starts happening maybe in your 30s, maybe in your 40s. But if you survive the initial, we made a movie, what was it, 25 years ago? You seem to know everything. There's a movie, what was it, Some Kind of Monster, it was 22 years ago. We made a movie, Some Kind of Monster, which some of you may have seen, which is really about the first time in a group, the first time in a collective setting where the stuff we're talking about is challenged. And so you you start off and it's a fucking rock and roll ride, and then all of a sudden 15, 20 years later it's like, holy shit, we have some things we have to talk about, and we have some things we have to figure out, and we have never really talked to each other about how we're doing and what's going on.
Sounds like a marriage.
Exactly. Well, it totally is a marriage, yeah. And so 20 years in, you sit there, and then we dealt with that shitstorm for 2 or 3 years, and it just so happened to be filmed, and it turned into this movie called Some Kind of Monster, which sort of detailed all of that. But my point was that if you survive that, on the other side of that is a new path where the first time you're at a junction of, does the collective stay together or does the collective break into all these separate entities? And so we, I think, all felt enough loyalty, desire for the collective to continue trumping that over the individual. And that goes to the thing of, I'd rather be in Metallica than not be in Metallica. And it also goes into the thing about that the 4 individual make up the 5th thing, which it becomes sort of, it's hard to do with a mic in one hand, but the what's the word? All 4 of the individual units being together forms the 5th thing, which is the Metallica, which sort of overrides the capabilities of the individuals and forms something that's even greater, if that makes sense, or even bigger, or more forceful, or whatever words you want to. So if you survive that part of it, and then can kind of manage to give each other the space, then the collective can, I think, continue to exist. But we have a very in our band, we have a very clear understanding of that. It's more important for us to get along now and to be, I know this is not a word that we want to associate with rock and roll, civility. Civility is more important than winning, so 20, 30 years ago, it was more important to be right, and it was more important to win an argument or to see an idea or a position through. Now, it's more important that the civility and the good energy and vibes sustain themselves. So I will back down in a way that I didn't back down 20 years ago for the greater good of the collective. And I think that's a sort of an understood thing that all of us, it's more important that we get along. And so we don't necessarily really argue. I'm pretty good at seeing sort of dominoes. I can see, here's a red flag for a domino that's going to result in like 5 dominoes fall over and there's going to be an argument or something bad that happens, and then it's like you can find a way to circumvent it and know what buttons not to push in other people and what stuff to not trigger and prevent it from melting down, really.
So it sounds like you have got more rounded corners, all of you, by age.
Got more round.